For today's inspection, we find a boat where the bottom has been freshly painted, the bottom paint's been freshly applied, but it has been applied over old bottom paint that has not been properly feathered, which means sanded. You have to do surface prep before you just put bottom paint on. So you can see here where you've got the old paint and it's not been smoothed. And what happens is if the bottom paint is applied over this old bottom paint and it's flaking, then you're going to have issues like this right here where it's starting to flake off. So the takeaway here is that when you apply bottom paint, you have to prep the surface like painting anything before you apply the new bottom paint. So today's topic is screen burn-in or screen damage. This is something I often see with older electronics while conducting surveys. This can be caused by pixels displaying the same image or icon over an extended period of time, as well as excessive display brilliance. So here we have a typical stuffing box on an older trawler, and you can tell by the sling marks here and the pattern, this thing is leaking, and it's leaking excessively. I can sit here in a stationary position. You can see it dripping steadily. Stuffing boxes like this should drip while you're underway, maybe 7-8 drops a minute while you're moving or underway, but they should not leak in the stationary position. So for today's find, we're going to look at this anchor rod and chain. If you pull this chain out, you'll see that it is badly corroded and it's in need of replacement. Also, if you take a look at the eye splice there, the thimble is badly corroded and it needs to be replaced. And none of the screw pin shackles are properly moused or secured to keep them, the pins from unscrewing. And if you look at the rod, the actual rope rod, it is old and in need of replacement as well. The 60-second survey topic of the day is engine mounts. Here we have an engine mount that is badly corroded. You can see the rubber coming out of the engine mount. It is deteriorated and this mount needs to be replaced. The 3 remaining engine mounts are in similar condition and are also in need of replacement. Today's find is the exhaust system, a water lift muffler for a engine on a 1988 Taiwanese built trawler. You can see the exhaust hose here is badly deteriorated, it's cracking, and is in need of immediate replacement due to the dangers it causes for carbon monoxide poisoning. And I'll let you in on a little secret too. That section of exhaust hose you see right there with the plastic wrapping on it, that is an original installation. So as this vessel is a 1988, that means that section of exhaust hose is roughly 35 years old. Well past its expected service life and definitely is in need of replacement. So today's find, we're looking at the drive shaft for an engine in a sailboat, and we are looking at the coupling and the shaft set screws. A quick look and you can see one of the set screws is missing, so that needs to be replaced, and then they need to be secured together, and by secure I mean they need to be moused together with stainless steel wire to prevent them from unscrewing. So here we've got bilge system, and we have right here is a float switch that's a sensor for a bilge alarm, high water bilge alarm. And this is what you want to hear when this goes off. Or actually, you don't want to hear it, but this is what you should hear. And that's what it should sound like. The bilge alarm system should be loud enough to be heard over engine noise while you're operating the vessel. And ideally, it should be loud enough to be heard by dock personnel or people walking by in your marina or near your slip if it goes off. Haloing of the bottom paint around below waterline metal fittings of the hull, bronze through hulls, shaft, rudders, etc., is sometimes observed on boats with bonding systems that are in poor condition or are providing overprotection of the bronze components. This situation is most prevalent with vessels using black or dark colored bottom paint, and it's more common with certain types of bottom paint, such as Petit Trinidad, for example, which contain higher amounts of cuprous oxide. This higher level of copper, coupled with the bonding system issues we mentioned earlier, can easily lead to the establishment of a galvanic cell and flow of galvanic currents. The solution here is to make sure all bonding connections are clean, tight, and corrosion free. If that doesn't solve the problem, the next step is to have a corrosion survey done. So today's find, teak decks in need of maintenance. You can see here there's rust, corrosion, bungs are missing off the screws. The bungs are the little wooden plugs that fit over the screws. Every missing bung is a possible point of water entry into the coring of the deck below this teak overlay. Once you have moisture entry into the coring of the deck, then you have deterioration, rot, delamination, resulting in soft decks and deck failure. So today's find is improper hose used on a through hull fitting below the waterline. You can see here, this is heater hose. This is used as a raw water intake hose for an air conditioning unit. This is not a marine grade hose, and it is definitely not suitable for use on a fitting below the waterline and should be replaced. So here's something I often find on boats, particularly older boats. You're looking at the fire extinguisher here, right? Pull this thing off, look at the bottom, you'll see that this thing was manufactured in 1995. Meaning this unit is right around 28 years old and well past its service life of 10 years. These disposable portable units should be replaced every 10 years. So for today's find, we have a leaky rudder post packing gland. A lot of times these rudder post glands may not leak at all while you're in a stationary position, but once you get underway, the increased pressure can cause them to leak significantly. That's why you should check for leaks both stationary and while underway. So today's find is a bilge pump and an automatic float switch. You can see the bilge pump is not mounted and the automatic float switch is not mounted either. Both of these should be securely mounted to the bilge so that they're not flopping around while the boat's underway, and they will operate properly. So today's find is cracked fiberglass tabbing for a bulkhead and floor of a bunk in the forward portion of a sport fisherman. And you can see the cracked tabbing here, which needs to be removed and repaired to return it to original strength. So today's find, we're looking at some Volvo Penta pod drives, and around the base of the pod we've got oil. Was the pod leaking? Was it spilled when they did a fill here? This is something we'll have to have a mechanic verify that there is no leaks or are no leaks, and see the source of this oily residue. So a couple of problems with this magnetic compass. First off, the dampening fluid is low. That's why you have the big bubble at the top of it. And the second issue with this compass is that the compass light is inoperative and it needs to be repaired. Finally, the vessel should have a compass card displayed showing what error corrections to add for different headings. So today's find, propane system issues aboard this older sailboat. First off, there is no pressure gauge in the system to allow you to do a leak down test. Second, the hose is over 30 years old and well past its service life. Third thing is there are some unsealed holes in the locker. The locker must be vapor-proof to the vessel's interior. And finally, the locker itself vents into the cockpit using the cockpit drains rather than venting directly overboard per ABYC recommendations.